Welcome to it, sports fans. A different ball game. Good day today. Hey, it's warming up in the Republic of South Africa. And no, I'm not bored, just starting with the weather, but really, really warm day today. Could actually go for a run with no jersey. So that is good news. The high felt of South Africa warming up. Great stuff. Today we're going to talk football. Of course, St. Tottenham's Day, 4th year in a row. It has gone awry for the Gunners. I'll talk about that and a little bit more. We'll dig into that. Past 4 seasons being a disaster for the Gooners. But we'll tuck into that in a little bit. Woude Muller is here to tell you about more of the best rugby players, of course, that have ever played in World Cup history for the Springboks. Woude, what's happening?
Yeah, I don't really want to yet talk about my pick today because I don't feel I'm ready to share what I have to say. But in 10 minutes' time, I'll be ready. And you're lying. It's not heating up in South Africa. It is cold in Cape Town. So maybe where you are, but here I think we have the snow in the mountains and it's freezing.
Well, I think there's a movement for Cape Town to separate itself from South Africa. I think we all know Cape Town is its own thing. They got their own thing going on in Kaapstad, as they call it.
Yeah.
When Kaapstad having a flat white in Sea Point.
Well, are they also protesting against the whole restaurant thing up there? Because there were a lot of protests for that today.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, I wonder how good the service was at those tables.
No, I don't know. I don't go out. I stay in. I'm too scared for the virus.
All right. Oh, it's going to get you. It's going to get you whether you're eating croissants or you're in a taxi. It's packed to the max. But anyway, that's another issue. Let's get into it, Woude. Great to have you. Looking forward to that. Let's get straight into it. By the way, great guest today. I keep saying it over and over. Great's overused, but this is the real deal. Got Greg Minnaar coming up. It's unbelievable. He's sitting somewhere in the Alps of Switzerland. Phenomenal stuff. Cannot wait to chat to him. But let's get into it. So if you are a fan of either North London club or the powers of North London, let's call them, the Gooners, Arsenal, or the Spurs, Tottenham. Beautiful new stadium. Both have tremendous stadiums. Look very similar, actually. But over the last 4 years, which is a presidential cycle if you live in America, things have turned. The old saying is, North London is red. Well, let's take a look, because things have changed. Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, in the words of LeBron James, but it's 4 seasons now. As you can see there, 4 seasons in a row, Spurs have finished above Arsenal. That's brutal because 1, okay, lucky. 2, all right, maybe we've had a bad season, a bad transfer window. 3, we're in trouble. 4, it's a real thing. Last night, the performance against Aston Villa is one of the most comical things I've ever seen because Arsenal fans were starting to get loud. It's as though Mikel Arteta turned into Pep Guardiola overnight. Come on. But what I wanted to make sure that people know is that last night is what Arsenal were. Even if it's fatigue, no matter what you want to give excuses for, is that was the median. Statisticians will call it the median, right? When you're tired, when you're exhausted, you show me your character. Because that's when the pressure comes, right? When fatigue comes is when the pressure comes. And then I see what you really are. So it's very easy to get yourself up for Liverpool, get yourself up for Man City. But yesterday, when you have to operate and be professional and be efficient, then you show me what it is that you are at the very core. Just as with anybody, by the way, if you want to see who somebody is, put them under some pressure. How do they respond? When things go wrong, are they flustered? Well, you saw it last night because Aston Villa are hungry, right? And their lives were on the line. It is Premier League or bust last night for them. And we saw 2 different teams. An Arsenal team that was almost celebrating being in an FA Cup final versus an Aston Villa team that was desperate. And then the quality has to come through. And it told us last night, Arsenal are a mile off. But what I don't want to hear from Arsenal fans anymore is that North London is red. Because that's dead. It's not 1 season now. I've got the evidence. So let's look at the last 4 seasons. Let's have a look at the tables from the last 4 seasons. So you might say, okay, I'm anti-Arsenal. I'm a Chelsea fan. So people will go, okay, you just don't like Arsenal. You're just jealous of the Invincibles. All right, maybe I am. As I said yesterday, men lie, women lie. Numbers, they do not lie. They don't care who you are, male, female, gay, straight. They don't really care. 1 + 1 is always going to be 2. On a Wednesday, on a Tuesday, on your grandmother's birthday, if you're having an affair, with your girlfriend's birthday, numbers don't lie. And here's what the numbers look like. So 16-17, the Gooners finished in 5th place. 86 points for Tottenham in 2nd place, 75 for the Gunners. That's 11 points. Some disparity there. Can we arrest the slide? Let's go over to 17-18. What happened there? Things might have changed. No, they didn't. No, sir. 63 points. It got even worse. 63 points for the Gunners, 77 for Tottenham. Oh, my goodness. That's 14. 14 points. What happened the next season? 18-19. Tottenham, once again, this time it's a little closer. But it's 1 point. 71 for Tottenham, 70 for the Gooners. 18-19. And then this season, because now you've got Mikel Arteta. By the way, it's been a mess at Arsenal. 3rd manager, if you include Freddie Ljungberg. The Gunners are going to finish for the first time in 25 years outside of the top 6. I'm going to let that one sink in. That's a tough one to swallow. 25 years, quarter of a century. Quarter of a century. For the first time in 25 years, the Gunners will finish outside of the top 6. It is no longer mathematically possible for them to make Europe in the Europa League through the league. Look at that. For our podcast audience, it is a complete and utter disaster because Tottenham on 58 could very well sneak into the top 6. If Chelsea beat Wolves on the final day, Tottenham win, they'll be in the Europa League. Arsenal will be nowhere unless they can beat Chelsea at Wembley. And that's not looking good. Tottenham Hotspur, 5 points above the Gunners. Arsenal are in 10th place. 10th place. Oh, my gracious. By the way, below Burnley and Sheffield United. I didn't stutter there, but that's not a mistake. They're below Burnley and Sheffield United. They're below Wolves, Leicester, and most crucially, St. Tottenham's Day. For the 4th year in a row, it'll be Tottenham. All right, I'm biased. I'm just picking out seasons. It might be anecdotal. I'll tell you what I've done for you because I'm such a good guy. I hear it all the time. You're such a good guy. I am a good guy. I'm a great guy. I tell you what I've done for you, Gunners fans. I've been nice enough to go, let me take my bias out of it. Because maybe I am just some dickhead over there who hates the Gunners. Maybe I'm that guy. Men lie, women lie, numbers, they don't lie. I've put in a table for you what the last 4 seasons looks like. So this is what I say. This is what the last 4 seasons look like. Let's have a look-see. So, Dalton, let's just call it as though the season's finished. 4 seasons, 152 games played. We'll go to the first column. What's the most important thing in football? You got to win. You got to win. We're not here to make sandwiches. Tottenham in the last 4 seasons have 88 wins versus Arsenal 76. Listen, a 12-win differential. That's not lucky. That's not Tottenham or, okay, the new kids in town. 4 years is a presidential cycle in America. 28 draws for Spurs, which is less than Arsenal. So that's also not a stat you want to win. The stat you want to win is the wins. Tottenham win that by 12. Arsenal win the draws by 5. Trouble. And then this is where it comes crashing down. The Gunners have lost 42 games in the last 4 seasons. It's over 10 a season. I'm sorry, that's not even top 4 form. That's barely top 6 form. And if anything displays it clearly, because goals win matches. Goal difference over the last 4 seasons, 140 for Spurs, plays 85 with the Gunners. That's a big number. That's a big, big number. I mean, that's 60. Give or take. That 55 goals. Oof, brutal. Most importantly, 320 points for Spurs, 294 for Arsenal. I'm afraid it's over, folks. The noisy neighbours are Arsenal now. Emirates is the Tin Pot Stadium. Tottenham has a nicer stadium, a better squad, quite frankly, a better manager, and they've really had 3 better managers in a row. So for the Gunners, it's over, I'm afraid. You know what you are now? Is you are the 3rd club in London. You don't have to like what I have to say. I'm just telling you what's happening. It's over. The Gunners are no longer the Gunners. They like the Pistols. So to Tottenham, congratulations. You are the kings of North London, and you are now 2nd officially in London. London itself is blue, but North London, for now, is white. Incredible point differential. For Arsenal fans, hey, keep it coming. It's a comedic show. It's a roller coaster ride. I'm loving it as a Chelsea fan. But the numbers say you are now no longer a great club. You are a mid-table club. Accept that. Because you're below Arsenal or Tottenham for the 4th year in a row. Mid-table, St. Tottenham's Day, once again, for the 4th year, goes to Spurs. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. The Gunners, how the mighty have fallen. Wenger out, they said. Wenger out. All right, we got Woude Muller back. She's going to let us know what her latest pick is in the greatest players to ever play in a Springbok team. Woude Muller with the skip pass.
Yeah. So we're keeping up with the weekly picks of the best player to play in a certain position in the respective World Cups. So just looking back, I've picked Percy Montgomery, Cheslin Kolbe, Jacques Fourie, Henny Leroux, and Brian Abana. So today it is our fly half, our number 10, the person that's supposed to be the general and the pivot in the team. So the 3 choices from the respective World Cups that we've won, they don't exactly scream a fly half. And yes, rugby is a team sport, and it is very important to have great players in certain positions. One of those positions needs to be fly half. We've had Joel Stransky in 95, Butch James in 2007, and then Handré Pollard in 2019. Like I said, not one of these exactly scream a fly half. I mean, if you have to make a list of their strengths and their weaknesses, I think the list would be actually quite equal in length. You can kick, you can't read the game. You can tackle, but you can't perform consistently. You can break the line, but you can't tackle. You can sidestep. You can't perform behind a inferior pack. You can follow the game plan, but you can't improvise. So we don't have a complete fly half in this country. We don't have a fly half that can do all of that. Maybe it's just that our Springbok selectors and our coaches have been okay with picking one-dimensional fly halves. So they don't put a lot of emphasis on having a perfect fly half and a perfect 10 in our country. I mean, Joel Stransky perfectly executed Kitch Christie's game plan. He was very impressive in that whole build-up in 95, so much so that the first choice fly-half had to move to inside centre so that he can play there. He scored 240 points in the 22 tests that he played. And then, of course, we will never forget that drop goal that won us the World Cup in 95. So, yes, he could perform under pressure. Yes, he could kick. Tackling, not so great. But he executed the game plan that Kitch wanted him to execute. Which James in 2007, he was solid, but he didn't exactly put the world on fire. I don't think without Farida Priya, I don't think he would have done much, and we probably wouldn't have spoken about him much, unless we talk about the fact that he can't tackle with his arms. But he was Jake White's first choice, I think mainly because Jaco van der Weste is, and back then he just kind of didn't step it up to test level. But it's not really much more I want to say about Butch James. But then Handré Pollard in 2019, out of these 3, he's probably the most complete fly half. He does have the ability to attack the gain line. He does have a physical presence on the field. His goal kicking percentage up until the semi-final was only 60%. He only really picked it up in the semi-final and the final. In the semi-final, he had a man of the match performance, but he didn't really, I mean, if you want your fly-half to be able to kick 60%, come on, that's not exactly great. And then he scored 69 points in the whole of the World Cup. He's probably pretty okay on defense. If you want to compare him to someone, I guess you could probably compare him a bit to Owen Farrell if you want. Is he going to be the next Dan Carter? Not even close. Is he better than the other two? Yeah. And I think maybe I am being a bit hard on him because as a teenager and as a youngster, he played really, really great rugby. He really shined and sparkled, and he scored all of those points. And he was in the 2012 Junior World Cup here in Cape Town at Newlands when they won. I think he's been a bit underwhelming. So maybe it's just because I expected so much from him, from what I saw when he was playing a junior level, that he's not really blowing me away right now. So I'm going to have to go with Andre Pollard out of these three. I don't think you can really go with anyone else. And Mulela, I know how you feel about Andre, so give me some insights on this because I'm not exactly impressed by any of them.
Yeah, look, let's be honest. We don't value fly halves in South Africa.
No.
You know, we value loose. All we care about is the loose trio, right? We don't really care about backline players. It's you look at a guy like Brian Habana. You know, if he was in New Zealand, considering everything he's achieved, well, no matter what you think of Habana as a player, he doesn't really get spoken about. But when you talk about our forwards, I mean, people still to this day are talking about Dwayne Vermeulen as though he's Zinzan Brook. You know, you think of all the Ruben Krier. People would still probably hold guys like Ruben Krier in high esteem. AJ Fenter, Juwan Smith. That's where we like a bit of that. We don't value skill. Yeah, so it is what it is. I've always said we've never had a world-class fly half.
Yeah,
and people say Honeyball, but not really.
Yeah, I think I was just going to say the closest that we probably got to a complete one is Henry Honeyball. I mean, they called him Blade, Lem, or whatever for his tackling. But when he played, we never lost to the All Blacks. We had that 17-match winning streak. So you can say it was the team. You can say that we had a fly-half that controlled the game a little bit better. So he was probably the most complete one that we probably had in the country. But I do think the problem also actually comes in is that we play most of our rugby off our 9. So our 10 is not really important. It kind of has to be there to pass to the next phase, to kick and to have up and unders. That's basically what we expect our fly-half to do. So we don't need a multidimensional player, or our selectors and our coaches think we don't need one. But maybe we could really be that world-class team and be number 1 in the world if we actually developed a multidimensional fly-half. I think we have the capacity to, because we've had players in this country that has been able to kind of do that. I mean, it was that Radebe guy, I think he was at the Sharks, Garth April, we had Kerwin Bosch, we had Mani Libok, who's playing now, who just moved to the Sharks, Dimitri Katakilis. So we've had kind of these players, but a lot of our players are not able to step up to test level. So they're great at, I mean, Elton Jantjies is a perfect example of this. He's great at kind of provincial level, at Currie Cup and at Super Rugby. The moment that he steps up, so either it's, again, our system that they can't deal with, the way that they want the players to play. Really, what you want here is just play the game plan that I tell you. Don't try anything more. Just do what I tell you to do. So, I mean, we've had great multidimensional players in other positions in this country. But if you actually also look at the fly halves, our most capped fly half is way less than what the most capped players in any other position is. So do we lose them because we expect them to play a different game to what they play? Do we just not care about it? We can just put someone in there that can kind of just be okay. I don't know. But not any of these players, one team would not go and like, look, oh my gosh, he's in the team, on the team sheet. We need to target this player. Like, no one really builds a game around any of our fly halves. Not like you would for other teams. I mean, even Bowden Barrett, yes, it's not that perfect fly half, but you need to stop him. Dan Carter, if if you saw his name on the team sheet, you would want to build your game plan around him to be able to stop him. Not one of our guys, not one of those, and anyone really in South Africa that we've had would be able to do that. So I don't know. I don't know why we don't pick more rounded players who can sidestep and goal kick and skip pass and defend. Surely we have the talent in this country to be able to do that. But, yeah.
Well, I guess the other argument is you've had probably of the 5 greatest scrum halves to ever live, you've had 2 of them in one country and both took you to a World Cup. Why would you want to take the ball out of US hands? Why would you want to take the ball out of, I believe, the greatest scrum half to ever play rugby and top 10 greatest player to ever play in Fourie du Preez? The argument is, hey, why would you want to take the ball out of their hands? The other thing maybe we should keep in mind is that when South African rugby has been strong, the Bulls have been strong mostly. And we know what the game plan is there. So there's also that is think of every Bulls fly half is your auxiliary. Your job is to put the pack on the front foot. It's not to control the game. There's never been a Bulls fly half, even last quarter, we're going back 30 years, is your job is not to control the game. Your job is to get the fatties to be running that way, not backwards. Yeah. So that's an interesting thing there.
Yeah, but don't you then think now that we have such dynamic players playing in our backline, this would need to change? Because we have players like we've mentioned now. We have Makazole Mapimpu, we have Cheslin Colby, we have Lokanya on 13, who are really dynamic players who can really run with ball in hand. So do you think then that Jacques Nienaber and Rassie will look at changing that? Because Andre is not going to change. So how are we going to get the ball to the backline if we have those players there who can do so much?
Nope, because what you'd have to do then is go and change, whether we like it or not. This is not a controversial thing to say. The powerhouses of South African rugby are still Afrikaans. So what you'd need to go and tell Afrikaans schools is that, hey guys, listen, you're going to have to play like the All Blacks. What do you think they're going to tell you?
Yeah.
What do you when you go to Grey Bloom and say, hey, listen, we need you to play off 8, 9, 15. What do you think they're going to tell you?
No.
Yeah, go. There might be a P word. They'll say yo, and they might stick a P word in there.
I was just going to say they're going to laugh at you, but that's probably the better response you would get. I just find it very, very sad that we, in such a very important position in South Africa, we haven't been able to develop a world-class five. Not one that would get picked in any other team in the world, and not one that would be able to perform in any other team in the world. So that's my take on
an indictment. Listen, an indictment is probably, I honestly believe this, the best fly half we've ever had in this country is Francois Steyn. I genuinely believe that. And I mean that as I'm being dead serious. He is the best fly half we've ever had in this country. He can do everything. I mean, he's erratic, but none of the others can. Yeah. Sad. But anyway, so who did you pick, by the way? They're also bad. They're also bad.
No, I had to go with Andre Pollard. You can't go with any of the other two.
Hey, nice problem to have.
Yeah.
Nice problem to have that we're at least picking from guys that have won World Cups, and we're saying not good enough. A lot of countries want to win 3 World Cups.
I know.
Before we finish it off, Ntokozo Majozi says the teams can never really keep up with the dynamic 10. The Lions built their team around Elton, but the Springboks were not on that level. Great point.
No, it is a great point. But like we say now, we literally just want our forwards to go forward. We want our pack to be strong. Our 10 is just there to kick the ball, to kick that up and under, and to pass to the next phase, to the next person next to them who can run into the person in front of them. That's literally why he's there.
So what you're saying is the fly half is more like the purse. He's not the dress or the necklace. He's not the showpiece. He's the purse you hold on the side. And more of an accessory than the main show.
It's the last accessory that you kind of pick before you leave the house. You realize, I still might need this, and you kind of take it with you.
There you have it, folks. Of Woude Muller on her pick. Brutal stuff. Fly halves in South Africa. What do people think? Absolutely love it, Woude. Good stuff. That is good stuff. That is the skip pass for today. The last piece of accessory you pick before you leave the house. Phenomenal. Oh my goodness. There you have it, folks. Hey, speaking of South Africans that are genuinely world class, right? And when we talk about some of the greatest to ever do it, we're about to talk to a man who, of the human beings that have ever been born, I don't know other animals that can do this, of any human being that's ever been born. I don't want to hear it because I'm South African. He's the greatest to ever do it. The man coming up next, ladies and gentlemen, is a genuinely great sportsman and one of the greatest to ever do it in his field. World-class South African. Ladies and gentlemen, following this, Maritzburg's favorite. Yes, coming up, somebody who would not be the last accessory you would take leaving the house. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce our guest for today. I am pumped for this guy. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing Carter House-made, 3-time UCA downhill world champ, 3-time downhill World Cup champion UCI. Ladies and gentlemen, Maritzburg born, but absolutely refined around the world, the one and only, the GOAT. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring to you Maritzburg's favorite son, Greg Minnaar. Come on! The best in the business, the best to ever do this thing. How are you, Greg? Oh, no. Oh, no. I think you muted there, Greg. Oh, no. This is what's going on in the Alps there. I don't know. How are we doing there? Dave, is he muted on his side or our side? Let's see if we can get Greg back. We'll just refresh and then we'll get him back. But by the way, he is sitting in the Alps with a raincoat on, in the Swiss Alps, living that good life. Should we see if we can? Yeah. Well, let's.
How's that? Can you hear me yet?
There we go. All right, we sorted it out. Yeah, we got there in the end.
Imagine it's amazing what a little refresh can do, eh?
Hey, you're telling me, brother. You're telling me. You know.
Yeah.
I just you just got to realign your computer chakras, as they say.
Oh right, yeah. We learn something new every day.
Hey, we live and we learn from the Swiss Alps. How you doing, bro?
All's good. I managed to get into Europe. Only about a week ago, 10 days ago, which was quite a lot of paperwork and many flights that got cancelled and what have you. But I finally got over, and I just came over to Morzine in France yesterday and to do some testing and get back riding downhill.
So tell me, what was the thinking there? Let's get into it. Like, was it just because you want to start? Is it because the stuff's more technical up there than what you got in Maritzburg, or what's the vibe?
Well, a few things really. It's with the way things are going in lockdown, I didn't want to be locked down in South Africa and stuck again. So I decided to make a gap for Europe. We're going to be racing in probably 3 or 4 weeks' time. So it was important for me to get to Europe. And as you know, you're mentioning the tracks, it's a lot steeper here in Europe. The mountains here have definitely got a little bit more gradient and are a bit more technical. So it's important that I get to ride the terrain that we race on.
Hey, Greg, another thing I wanted to ask you, what's it like being the most handsome person alive? Or that must be tough.
Yeah, thanks for that. One way to get me hot and blushing.
Oh, okay. Well, I just thought I'd ask. Some of us will never reach those heights. Listen, I got a friend who, if you weren't set up, she'd marry you like that tomorrow. When she heard you on the show, she gave me a call, and I cannot tell you on the internet. It's not legal. What she said, I must pass on to you. It's not kosher. So I'm just letting you know.
Great. Let me know.
Hey, Greg, one thing I wanted to get out of you before we get going, because for some people we may need to introduce you who you are, which is ridiculous. I don't know if they're living under a sort of a rock, but what was it about downhill at the beginning? Because pretty early on, I mean, sort of 17, 18, guys were like, oh, we got a guy. But what was it for you that says downhill? This is me. Was it something you took on early on? Was it somebody who pushed you in that direction?
Well, I grew up racing motocross, so I obviously had a knack for speed, and the motocross gave me bike handling skills that translated and transferred into mountain biking really well, and obviously lent towards downhill. When I started racing mountain bikes, just race cross country and the whole shoot, but I definitely preferred downhill. I had more fun racing downhill and riding downhill, and I had better results in downhill. So that's the direction I chose.
Oh, so it almost chose you more than you choosing it. It was just like, okay, I'm better at this. I'm going to do that.
It was a little bit that way. I had no interest in bicycles, although I had a BMX I used to play around on while I was racing motocross. And my parents bought a bicycle shop in Pietermaritzburg, and my motocross started to go downhill pretty badly. My results were nowhere. I had no time to train, and a bicycle was something I could do on my own. I used to go and ride with some friends in the forest and build jumps and play around, and then got racing into mountain bikes, and that's what got me started. It wasn't something that I grew up loving from a young age. I always had bikes and I enjoyed bicycles, but I grew into racing mountain bikes.
And Greg, I mean, we live in a country where your traditional sports are probably more celebrated than, when you go to Europe and such things, where they sort of venerate what we might call alternative sport, for lack of a better term. But so for you, when you were getting going, was there a temptation? I mean, you went to one of the great institutions in South Africa at Carter House. Was there ever anything else? Was there ever a rugby? Was there ever a tennis? Was there ever a football? Or was it just like, okay, you're going to get yourself on a seat and you're going to go downhill and you're going to go fast?
Well, like I was saying, I grew up racing motocross. I love playing all sports. I was more into PE and sport than I was into any other subject at school. So, my mom wanted me to play tennis when I was young. I had to relearn to play tennis left-handed so I could actually play with both hands. And apparently my backhand wasn't strong right-handed. So with all these lessons, I learned to play left-handed. But that was a sport that I was forced into. And once I was in school and chosen for the team, I think I missed a few practices, kicked off the team, didn't actually even play a tournament. So, but I played a bit of rugby, played soccer, swam a bit. I did everything really. But there wasn't one of the sports that I felt that I really loved as much as two wheels.
Yeah, fair enough. I can imagine serving a double fault doesn't get the blood rushing like nearly breaking your face every time you get on a bike. I can imagine why you picked this one. Listen, between you and me, right, there is a stigma. It's like, oh, these guys on bikes, whether you're skateboarding on a bike or whatever. I think for a long time there was a stigma that these guys are just, I don't know, little dropouts who want to go and have fun. And I would imagine that stigma might have existed early on. But then was there a time where you had to decide to go, listen, I'm not going to be these guys who are just having a good time on a bike? Was there a seminal moment where you went, I don't want to be good at this thing. I could be the best in the world, and I've maybe got to cut people out of my life. I've got to cut certain routines out. Or what happened to take you from, Greg, the guy's pretty good, like protege, all right, this guy's not bad, to, okay, now we got a beast. We got a different animal.
Well, I think that turning point was the point that made me become a dropout. And I remember I came over, only an hour from where I am now, to Switzerland as a 15-year-old to race world championships. And it was crazy. Coming from South Africa, racing was really small. And I get into the world championships and it's just massive. All these big trucks and all these pro riders, and it's just this massive scene. And I qualified 12th, and I still had another 2 years in juniors. So I'd be looking pretty good to be able to get a podium or a world championship medal in a few years. time. But in the final, I had a massive crash. Ended up coming in 51st. I remember my parents used to go caravanning on holiday. That was our annual holiday, and I got back to the caravan park. It just and I just get and on race track needs to be.
Oh no, sorry, Greg. I think we lost you at caravanning there. You were saying you used to go caravanning, and then
I returned back from Switzerland, and that's when I told my parents that I need to leave school and go over to Europe and learn how to race on the European tracks, and this is the direction I want to go.
Oh, listen, Greg, we've worked our whole lives to be able to afford to send you to one of the greatest schools in the world, and then you have to come and have that conversation. That must have been a delightful conversation for your parents to have.
Oh, it was amazing. I got a solid no. I mean, what parent's going to let their son drop out of school at standard 8 or grade 10, you know?
Yeah, they've worked their hands to the bone to send you to a Carter House, a great school for those who don't know. By the way, and it's like, hey, listen, I want to jump on a bicycle in Europe. What do you guys think? That's so awesome, Greg.
Well, the best part of it was this is where my negotiations came in. And so I started the negotiations. We took it to the headmaster to mediate this whole negotiation between myself and my parents. And the headmaster backed me up and said, well, you know, on the subjects he's interested in, he does all right. Nothing groundbreaking. But when he's not really interested in something, he doesn't really, you know, he scrapes through. So why don't you give him a chance? He always come back and finish school later on. So I won that fight and managed to go to Europe the following year.
Let's go. So you always knew it's like it was the Minnaar way or the highway type of thing. I love that, dude. So you were a champion early on.
Well, in hindsight, I wouldn't recommend doing that. I mean, if I had to give any advice to anyone, it would definitely not be leave school and just go straight to Europe and race, because the chances of you making it are pretty slim. And I think I could have done with an extra few years at school. So I don't recommend it highly, but it is the route that I chose. And, you know, we're quite stubborn. And so once I had chosen this route, I had to just back it up.
So, okay, great. I'm glad you kind of took it that way. Talk to me then about, because in life, once you've made that kind of call, and I'm pretty sure the conversation with your parents must have been interesting, is what sort of pressure were you on internally now? Now it's like, Greg, you just convinced your parents to drop you out of school. What was going through an 15, 16, 17-year-old Greg Minnaar's mind? Were you like, I am under the pump here?
Yeah, I was definitely. And I got to Europe and didn't qualify for races. I mean, coming from South Africa, we tend not to ride in the mud and the rain. You know, you can see it's just pissing down around me now. So these Europeans are used to it. And I got to Europe, didn't qualify for any races for that season. I ended up coming sixth at the World Champs at the end of the year. But, you know, it's real hard when you're in Europe by yourself and you're 17 years old, 16 years old, you have to cook for yourself. I had my mom on the phone asking how to, you know, if she can hear if the rice is being boiled or not. I had no idea what I was doing. It was a grow up quickly lesson. And, but also, you know, being homesick and being away from friends and family is pretty tough. And I think that's what, you know, it was a real tough, lonely time, you know, being in Europe, not speaking the language, not having a lot of friends around me or family. And then you start to question if this was the right move or not. But being as competitive as I am, as soon as I got to racing, I guess that drove me past a bit of the hard times.
So as much as obviously a lot of people would idealize this journey, but then when it's shaky at the beginning, what's the sponsorship pressure like? Because let's face it, you know, if you want to be at the top of the game, you need a team, right? So what are the sponsors saying when they see you at first struggling? Were you getting any pressure from that side? What was the story there? I can imagine that must have been quite scary for you as a 16, 17-year-old.
Yeah, well, thankfully, the sponsorship at that time was my parents. So I think they were possibly a little bit more nervous than me convincing them, as they had rebonded their house to afford for me to travel and go and race in Europe. So I think there was a lot of pressure, but I must say, like, my parents never ever pass down the pressures, the financial pressure that they'd taken on for me to race. And I must say that's a kind of I don't know if I could do that to my kids one day. If there's a financial pressure for them to succeed or not, I don't think I could handle it as well as my parents did. So,
Wow.
First thing was I didn't really have a very successful junior career. I didn't medal or podium in junior world champs, which was what I was aiming to do. And I managed to get on a team in the UK as like a semi-professional rider on my first year elite. So 18 years old or 19 years old, moving over to the UK and then racing for a team there. That definitely was a point where I could say that the pressure cooker was now releasing some strain and finally felt like I was getting somewhere.
That's unbelievable. So your parents, I mean, that's backing your kids, man, remortgage their house.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Great. That's one of the most phenomenal stories I've ever heard. I'm not even kidding, because it never works out. And for you, it's, for some people, it kind of works out and they go professional. You don't become the greatest of all time. So your parents, what's your relationship like now with your parents in hindsight? Do you guys, do you sit back and think and talk about those times, or what's it like now? It must be amazing to talk about these times.
We don't really. And I think that's, I'm sure I think about it a lot. It must have been a struggle. I've got two older sisters as well that obviously there's a lot of sacrifice within the family for me to pursue my dream. But at no point did they ever throw it on me as if I was a burden to it, or anything like that. I must be honest, we don't really talk much about it.
Oh, that's because you're the greatest of all time. There's nothing to talk about. You deliver. That makes it a little easier, I guess. That's like
it might be a different story if it never happened. You're right.
I'm sure. Hey, listen, hey, guys, we're going to Switzerland. How are we flying? First class, because we're flying with a goat. Oh, all right. Well, don't worry about dropping out of Carter House then. Man, that's awesome, dude, because nothing is given in this world. Nothing is given. So I can only imagine. Hey, what sort of training hours are you putting in? Like your workload from earlier to now, has it changed? And if so, what do your hours look like now? What's the goat putting in terms of training hours?
So I go to the gym 3 times a week, probably spend about an hour and a half, hour 20 in the gym. On the bike, I'll do about 8 to 10 hours a week on a bike. And then I run a fair bit, but now my program's running once a week for about an hour. So there's a fair bit of training that goes in on it, for sure. As I said, I just came over to Europe now, so I've just got on my downhill bike. I haven't ridden it since March. And but I got an e-bike while I was at home. So through this last period of lockdown, I've really loved this e-bike. It's been amazing. So that definitely was my downhill training.
E-bike, I've heard. Isn't that like dancing with the devil for in the cycling world? Come on now.
Oh, I don't get it. It's like in South Africa we have this backwoods mentality of e-bikes for older guys. But okay, I'm starting to lean towards the older guys' age. I must be honest, but it gets me to the top of the hill way quicker, way easier than any other way. And I get to bum way gnarlier trails on the way down. I just don't understand the mentality saying it's for older guys. I think you need an e-bike at a younger age so you can do more gnarly stuff and ride a lot quicker and get up a lot easier. And then when you're older, maybe get on a road bike or a marathon bike and just trickle around. And it's not serious. So I think we've got it backwards in South Africa.
Hey, guys, Greg Minnaar has just said, stop making fun of housewives who have e-bikes and let them do their thing. So if Greg Minnaar says it, damn it, get off their back. All right, Greg. So now you're a champion. You're working towards the champion. You're 21, 22, right? Talk me through now, because it's different from protege, okay, coming up, semi-pro, but now it's like, there's a guy. We're 21, we're 22. Now we're starting to get into it. We're starting to podium. Maybe we haven't quite won yet, but what's the mental shift there? Did you start taking the game more seriously? So what happens in order to go from, okay, I'm a guy, to a beast? Does the pressure go up from sponsors internally where you're going, all right, Greg, here are a few decisions that you must make in order to go from top 5 to the guy?
Yeah. Well, mine was kind of like, it skyrocketed up and then had this massive explosion. So I'll talk you through it. I went to my first year elite on this UK-based team. I had 2 podiums. I got this. My first professional ride was on a team called Global Racing, and the team was funded by the founder of Sony, the family of Sony, and massive team that wanted was the and so this mechanics, I was able to bring a mechanic from South Africa with me, and I ended up having a great first professional season, winning the World Cup overall, and suddenly I've now taken out who was the greatest rider we had then, Nicolas Villio, a French rider. I'd now beaten him in the head-to-head for the final round of the World Cup in Canada. And here I am at 19 years old, this World Cup champion in my first year pro. So I get invited to this invitation race in France. And I don't really think much of it. The French take the sport really seriously, and they're very strong and proud of being in downhill. And I get invited to this race. I can't actually remember where it was. I think somewhere near Grenoble. And I arrive at the race, and I see one of the pamphlets, and I see Nicolas Villio, this French rider, with a little headshot of him and all his credentials below. And then there's a headshot of myself and my credential. This was like a big pissing contest. This was to see who really was the best rider of the 2001 season. So Nicolas versus Greg in France in this packed French venue. And so, I'm already on holiday. I've had this most amazing season. This is all, kind of wrecked now. So anyway, I get practicing, and in the practice, I run with a friend of mine from Spain, Dave Vasquez, and I slip on this, crossing this road, go over the handlebars. It's not a very big crash, and I put my arms out, and I land at the base of a tree on my underarm, and I can feel something's quite weird, and I broke a collarbone. So I showed forward, and I said to David, "Oh, is my collarbone broken? Because it's not feeling good." So he looks at me and he just shakes his head and then turns off and rides down the hill. And what happened is my shoulder dislocated and was now sitting in front of my chest. And so I walked over to the side of the track holding my arm in front of me, and I waited for the doctor to arrive. And these 2 medics came in first, and the one guy wrapped his arms around my chest and was leaning back, pulling. And another guy had his foot on my chest in front of me, and he was pulling on my arm, trying to get the shoulder in. And I couldn't hold the pain. So eventually I pushed these guys away, and I was waiting for this doctor to arrive. And he just put some morphine in and just clicked my shoulder back in, and that was it. The problem was, in 2001, rehabbing a serious injury wasn't really high on the priority list. So, back then the doctors just said, wait 3 months and you'll be fine. And I waited probably 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and I have an amazing sponsor by an eyewear company called Oakley. And Oakley had bought me a new motocross bike as a gift for winning the World Cup series that year. So, 6 weeks in, new motorbike waiting. Of course, I was going to go ride it, and my shoulder never ever healed properly. So, for about 7 years after that, until 2008, I battled a dislocating shoulder through the rest of my career. So the pressures, as you're talking of sponsorship, the following year had a terrible year, and so for the next 6-7 years, I just had this up and down in my career, just fighting a shoulder that kept dislocating in races, and yeah.
Wow. So, I mean, the pressure is that much because you're the guy now, right? You're the guy.
Well, that's it. And you're carrying an injury, so it doesn't help. And that pressure mounts up quickly. The year that followed on from that was an absolute nightmare of the year. I managed to come back the 2003 season a year later, but yeah, it definitely wasn't easy.
And so, talk me through that quickly, Greg. A lot of us just see the end product. Nobody talks, very rarely, especially with great ones like you, because we don't often see what it takes to be great. A lot of us don't understand the process of how many hours you've put into that. When it's you, the man alone, how are you feeling when those pressures? And I mean, a guy like you, I'm pretty sure you don't need the external pressure. Is the pressure you put yourself under, I imagine, is greater than any pressure you'll ever get from anyone. What was happening inside of you there, dude? Because it's like, now it's clear you're the guy. And now you go, Greg, you're the guy. You've worked so hard to be here. What's going on inside of you, just out of interest? It's just, to me, it's absolute greatness is fascinating.
Yeah, I've always battled, actually. Once I've had a great season, I've always battled the following season, or at least I feel I've battled. And I think, you get all these, suddenly you have to go to all these appearances. I always battle the season after a really good season. And you're right. Once you've got that target on your back, it's hard. I do put a lot of pressure on myself to do it, to race and to perform at my best. So I'm probably my worst enemy. But it definitely, if you can feel it, especially from your team side, that pressure is just that can really just take it out of you. It's really important that the team understands the rider and gives the rider a fair opportunity to bounce back after possibly a bad race or whatever. But I think that's why I've stuck to the team I'm on. The syndicate's been a great home for me, and I've been on there since 2008.
So, Greg, for just a few young guys coming up, there's people who look up to you for inspiration, I'm sure, and there's guys that come to you. Is the word no really important once you become the guy? In hindsight, for you, you were young, great. Do youngsters need to learn once they are proteges, once they start to win? Do they need to start saying no to all this press stuff and need to start picking better? Would you advise such a thing?
I mean, it's easy for me to say yes, you're right. No is an important thing to do, but if you ask someone around me, I'm the one that battles to say no at the best of times. And but you're so right. It's so distracting. Social media now can probably be the worst. You see guys spending hours just trying to get the right clip that's going to get the most views, and it's so distracting. I would say that's probably the biggest killer right now, is people focusing on social media too much. Yeah, for sure, you're going to have it, and it's relevant, and it needs to be there, and it's a part of the whole marketing scheme. But it can easily distract riders.
Interesting. So you think some of the new breed might not become like all-round riders like you are? They might be purely looking for the small wins, which are get on social media, be hot for 2 years. Do you think that's going to affect the all-round game? Because I mean, some people probably just think, hey, don't be scared, put a helmet on, go downhill. But for you, it's a craft. It's a craft. Do you think guys aren't working on the craft as much?
You're so right. I mean, I wish I could be telling all the youngsters about it. You seem to hit the nail on the head on every part. It's so true. I mean, I remember spending hours, and in fact, with my e-bike in lockdown, went back to just practicing basics, just doing little corners. It's nothing fancy, it's nothing trick, it doesn't look amazing, but it's just getting the craft right. And that's what we were like growing up. You spend hours. You didn't have to have a little cell phone on the side trying to film you roosting dirt and putting it sideways. You're doing that because you're having a good time doing it. And I think that's the difference. It's the guys aren't mastering the craft. They're trying to master what looks good. Unfortunately, that's what Instagram and all these things have brought, more a fashion into riding rather than just straight up riding fast.
Hey, to all the youngsters, you don't have to like it, but the GOAT has said it. If this guy is saying it, he's been there, he's walked. This isn't somebody, an armchair expert, an idiot like me. This is somebody who's walked it and he's delivered. Go, if you don't believe me, you don't believe him. Go and look at you youngsters like Wikipedia. Go look at his Wikipedia. It's a 3-scroller. It's a 3-scroller just for his medals. So I hear you, brother. So let's bring it back a bit local. I mean, what's the scene like in SA at the moment? Are you excited about it? Tell me who should we be looking out for, and what's the scene like in SA? Because, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, for whatever reason, he still lives in Maritzburg.
Yeah, the scene's good. It's really good at the moment, and I think this. I do believe we're going to have a fresh wave of younger riders coming in, and especially in Maritzburg. I was just watching what we've got an amazing course build, that's world famous, world renowned, that lives in Maritzburg as well, and he goes up into the Cascades Forest and builds some incredible trails. And Nick Forrest has done an incredible job. But watching the guys just out of lockdown and me spending more time at home and be able to see all the young guys ripping it up, they're progressing, and they're progressing so well. They've got so much. There's so many trails, and and ways for them to progress. And I think that's really important. We're starting to have the trail network now and enough terrain for kids to progress on. So that's really important. I don't think necessarily you'll need to be going to Europe at 16 years old. I think it's this next wave can probably start off from home, which is really nice.
That's awesome.
There's a bunch of I think a few waves, and you think that waves. I think that next wave is coming through, and the juniors I don't think were very strong. Have now put a lot of effort into trying to be stronger in the league class. So I think South Africans could have some new riders to cheer on for sure.
So give us one that we should be excited about. Do we have one male, one female? Maybe we should be looking out for. We should be supporting as South Africans.
Yeah, there's a few. I mean, you got Theo Erlings there from Cape Town, as well as Clarkson. Let me see. There's so many riders, and you know what, Enduro has been a good scene for South Africa as well, because there's more guys coming into it from that side of things. So we got a Maritzburg ripper named Sharjah. He's definitely one for the future as well, and pretty good on Instagram.
So he's lit. By the way, the young kids say my Instagram game is lit. Great, because you're a Bali now, right. So you don't know these. I just want to sure. I want to sort of bridge the gap here. Yeah. You got to say lit. That's what apparently that's lit. What's up. So yeah. It's lit. Yeah, that's it. Oh, there we go. No, fast learner, this guy. Greg, do you think some people are just born crazy like you in terms of no fear? Or do you think that's something you can teach somebody in order to control that fear going downhill? Because honestly, I watch what you do and I go, like I snowboard, right? One of your business partners, myself and a guy called Peter Piper, that's been my thing for a long time. But I'm more of a traditional guy. Are you just a madman who has no fear? Or what is your story? Do you have a heart?
So I think that's that's possibly the toughest thing that people think about downhill is you just let go of the brakes and off you go, slam down it. But it's, there's a lot of planning, routine, understanding risk, understanding your strengths as well. So typically for me to race a downhill race, I'll learn every piece of the track, every route, every rock, trying to understand what the terrain is and where it might push further out to a certain line and what are the possibilities of it happening. And so you're weighing this all up in practice. And then you plan and you just involve this out plan. And then I break it up into probably 4 or 5 sections. So the race is about 3.5 minutes. And I decide, where I feel comfortable, I'll ride it, 110%. And I might risk quite a bit. And that's where I'm comfortable. And I feel that's all right. Where I feel that the track might be a little tough and I'm not so confident, I'll back it down to 95%. But you need to be racing as a complete race over 100% to win. So, you are risking it, but you're calculating the risk and you're understanding what could go wrong and you're understanding that you've got a very good chance of possibly making this corner without braking or whatever. So it's not as simply as just letting go of the brakes and bombing down, but there's definitely the stigmatism that's attached to downhill. And there are those riders that do that. I will be honest, there are some that do just... and they have some amazing crashes. If you go into YouTube and look up mountain bike fails, you'll see a whole lot of them. It's incredible.
Greg, dude, you've been so gracious with your time, and I appreciate it. I know you're out there. You probably want to go get something to eat, but just before I let you go, tell me, what is your favorite victory? Because hey, listen, I'm trying to be one of these youngsters now. I don't watch TV. I go on YouTube all the time, and you're a guy I've always been so proud of as a South African. What's your favorite victory? Because, there's 2 for me that stick out, probably because I'm a YouTube kid. The Maritzburg win, which we ran, was just ridiculous. And then it just feels like you've made Scotland home, right? Because you go to Fort William and it's almost like you could do it with a blindfold and go and beat everybody. But there's, when was the Fort William was what? 2012, that famous, there's one that's really, really famous where you really hauled ass. I can't remember. Was it 2012, 2013? Either way, what's your famous win? Because those are the 2 I remember. There's that Fort William one. And then of course, when you crashed it in Maritzburg.
Well, it's, that win at home in Maritzburg was definitely my favorite. And, I felt like, possibly this could be a race that I could retire off. I'd finally won my 3rd world championship and I won it at home, literally 2 kilometers from my house. When does that ever get to happen? we very rarely race in South Africa. Here I get to race world championships in Pietermaritzburg. I mean, so that was an incredible day. By far the pinnacle of my race wins. Fort William though is just such a special race, and I think the race you're talking about was in 2017. I just pushed Santa Cruz to develop a bike with 29-inch wheels, so it was a big wheel bike, and when these guys get on a plane, it's cost them a lot of rands. And
sorry, Greg, we lost you at the 29-inch. Sorry, Greg, sorry, if you don't mind just going again from after the 29-inch that they just made for you. We lost you a little bit there. Sorry, if we could just go back to that.
Yeah, so I had 11 or 12 friends from South Africa fly into Scotland to watch. And that adds a lot of pressure. These guys spend a lot of rands to get on their plane and to get over there. And now they're watching. You better believe it. There is only one option but to win. And for like that race weekend, I qualified fastest. I've got my teammates in second place. So I'm sitting in the start hut watching my teammate go, but it's starting to rain. And I see him go down the first section. He hits this little wooden bridge, slips out and crashes, goes down pretty hard. And I'm just thinking, how unlucky is this? I've got 12 or so friends all the way from South Africa. I've qualified fastest. I'm in the start gate and it's raining. I mean, what the hell? So I took off. I try to plan where I need to, we have like a clear film over our goggles. I try to plan a good time for us to pull the tariff off. I worked super hard up top of the track, got down to the middle, had to sit down, rip a tariff off. I got into the forest and I tried to ride as best I could. By then I'd got like down below the rain, but I was so tired from working so hard up top. I was just digging so deep down that bottom section of track to get across the line. And I get across the line and I win it. And these hooligan mates of mine absolutely rip apart the finish area, run in, security guards trying to catch them. They jump on me and I'm at the bottom of this pylon, out of breath from ripping up this track, trying to like really dig deep for the win. And these guys all on top of me, I honestly thought I was going to die.
By the way, that's on YouTube. It's so great because they're like, yes, come on, boys, get stuck in there. Listen, you can take the boy out of Maritzburg, but you can't take you can't take Maritzburg out of the boys. They were like, this one's for us. We just spent like $100,000 each. We literally might get divorced because our wives might leave us after spending this much money. We're getting in there. I love that moment, dude. Hey, one thing I wanted to ask you as well is you're one of the greats. Do the UCI come to you guys and ever consult you guys about how can the game get better? How do we transition the game to make it more friendly for people to watch? Whatever you guys sort of the OGs think will take the game to the next level on a commercial front or courses. Do they allow you? How much input do they allow greats like you guys to have? Or is the UCI just, we're in charge, you guys over there? What's it like? Is there any collaboration with stalwarts like yourselves?
There's a little bit. I represent all the riders within the commission, the UCI commission. So we sit down 3 times a year, very traditional board meeting, and we discuss the future of the sport, the state of the sport, and everything. And my input as a rider. And I've been on the commission now since 2008. So the young guns don't seem to want to take the role off my shoulders. So I just stick it out.
Oh, that's great. I can imagine how those boardroom meetings goes. The guys pitch up in their suits and there comes Greg Minnaar from Maritzburg. Yeah. How's it O's? Let's sit down.
You'll be surprised. I mean, okay, so UCI being based in Switzerland is very rigid as it is. I mean, the one meeting we had, this guy slept through the whole meeting. He had his translator translating to him while he was, flipped his eyelids and he was just cruising on the back there. It was unbelievable. So yeah, it's typical board meeting. Yeah.
And what are some of the innovations like you've suggested that have come through? I'm pretty sure you wouldn't have stayed there for 8 years if they weren't taking your recommendations. Just 1 or 2.
We did it. I did a rule for clothing, which is quite a funny story in itself. We're going through this very bad time in downhill. There wasn't, I say bad, commercially bad for riders. It's, the more areas of the body and the the space we can sell, the more sponsorship there is. And we're in this very funny stage where riders are wearing skin suits, which were made by like road cycling companies. And, we don't have like traditional downhill gear, what we wear today. So I wrote a ruling in to kind of give us image give us more of an image. But I was in Whistler in Canada, and it was about 3 or 4 a.m. I just got home from these clubs, and I had to get my computer, find some Wi-Fi, and the regulation out and send it off to the past, and just go up with my car to standard 8, and who knows how many beers later.
Hey, Whistler, by the way, I did a season there. I worked there 6 months. Phenomenal place. Monster Mountains.
Yeah.
That is sick. Hey, Greg, you've been unbelievable with your time. Talk to me before I let you go, bro. Crank Chaos. Talk to us what that's about. Yep. What are you guys trying to build up there in Lesotho at Afri-Ski, and how can people support you and the product?
It's very unique. I mean, there's not many chairlifts in Africa, and here we've got one which is pretty centralized in South Africa. A chairlift makes the access to riding incredible. You get towed up to the top, and then you can just choose your way down. So you don't even need an e-bike. You can use your regular bike. Peter and the team have put together a great weekend. You stay out in the chalets. The camaraderie is amazing. It's a fun weekend. There's good riding. There's good parties, and they seem to bring in some great bands and DJs. It's an amazing weekend. I normally drag out some friends that don't usually ride, and they seem to have a blast. I mean, I'm out riding my bike, so of course I'm gonna have fun. But these guys seem to have an amazing time, even if they're not into bikes. So, yeah, it's a good weekend.
That's awesome. That's at Afri-Ski. Hey, listen, get up to the Gondola Cafe, guys. I'm gonna go quickly show you why I'm the greatest in the world to ever do this thing. Greg, what's next for you, brother? Are you talking about retiring? What's the story now? Because like you're saying, now you're the big time boardroom guy. Hey, you're leaving the riders behind. So what's next for the champ, bro? How many more years are we supporting you as a rider?
I can't. I hope we get to race this year. Europe's having another bad wave of COVID right now, which is pretty shitty. But I think we'll get to do some racing. But there's no ways I'll go out on a season like this. And I think this lockdown's been really good for me. I'm quite an active person. So when I go on holiday, it's it might be a different place, but if I go down to the beach, I want to surf and I want to see people and I want to do things and play golf and ride motor. And I'm just always busy. So it's like holiday to me is being active and doing stuff. So I never get to actually relax and let my body just chill. And lockdown's been amazing for it. So the way I'm feeling right now, I'd really planned to race next season, and I hadn't thought much further than that. No one's ever raced into their 40s, so I might be the first. And we'll take it from there. I'm definitely not going to be racing if I'm not competitive. I feel I'll be taking a place of someone young that's up and coming, or maybe quite a few young riders' places. So I don't want to be that guy that's just hanging on to a name and hanging on to a team just because they can. You're either in it or you're not. So,
let's go. I love that.
If next season, if I start to drop off the pace, then I'll definitely call it quits. If I'm still on pace, we'll maybe push for a couple more years.
Greg, hey, listen, never let a pandemic go to waste. Honestly, in your career, this is probably maybe the most time you've ever had to recover, right? I'd imagine. I mean, for you, sure. So, hey, who knows? Listen, definitely. Maybe we do this thing. Maybe you do a Tom Brady, do this thing till you're like 47. Change the game completely, win another 5, and then tell him, put it to rest. Come on. All right, Greg, before we let you go, can we take some questions quickly from your beloved public? We got a few questions.
Let's go for it.
All right, Dave, what you got for the champ? All right, Sean, I hope I'm saying it correctly. Ali or Al says, what's the gnarliest track you've ever ridden inside or outside of competition?
Well, there's a track in Switzerland called Champray, and Champray was the toughest track to get down. The gradient was 1-to-1, so every 1 meter you drop 1 meter. So the marshals by law needed to be harnessed in. That's how steep it was. So it was a crazy track, and of course it rained. So yeah, super tough.
Wow, where in Switzerland is that?
It's actually not far from where we are now, in the Alps.
Oh,
So
very
just
cool.
around the
All
corner
right.
from Geneva, yeah.
Very nice. DH Princess says, will we see you building lines at Rampage in the near or distant future? Great question.
So Rampage, yeah, I mean, for someone who's scared of heights, Rampage is not really the place you want to go. And in 2003, I decided, let me go check out this Rampage thing. And I ended up competing, and I finished seventh. And I probably won't go to compete. I don't know. And I made the final. Yeah.
Oh no, sorry, we lost you there. You ended up finishing 7th or 8th, and then sorry, we lost you after that.
Yeah, so I finished 7th at Rampage, so I don't need to go back for that again. The box is thick.
Those guys are on a different level. Oh, those guys are not well in the mind. Although you say that, Greg. Hey, how many bones have you broken in your life?
I've touched wood and a lot of it right now. I've been all right. I've done like 4 collarbones and a couple knuckles here. I did my arm a year ago. And probably the worst injury I had, I got compartment syndrome in my left femur. So that was the gnarliest I've had.
Oh, brutal. All right. Darren DeLange says, what is Greg's hopes and goals for the adjusted 2020 UCI downhill series?
Well, I hope it goes. I mean, I hope we get to race. And of course, if we do get to race, I hope I can beat these bloody Frenchies and come out on top of the podium.
Let's go. Let's get one over the French again. Like they came here, taught us how to make wine. We make better wine than them. They take this thing seriously. We're like, hey, we got a guy in Maritzburg. He's going to come over there and kick all your asses. Max Kluwer says, hey, man, hope you well, but Mbulelo, ask him about his his golf cart driving skills. Hey, what you got for us, Greg? Well, what's the story there?
I'm trying to think who was driving in front of me, but I think it was Bobby Skinstad.
Where was it? Where was? Oh, not a good start.
I was in Cape St. Francis, and I mean he's a terrible driver, and he tried to cut in front of me, and I ended up clipping the back of him and rolling his golf cart down the golf course. So I mean, my driving's not too bad, but he could definitely use some more skill. He needs to go drive his ed class for sure.
Oh, listen. Hilton College guy. What you going to do about this? Greg, before I let you go, one more question. Thank you, brother, for being so gracious with your time. Chris Cray says, which event has the maddest after parties? Greg, you're at resorts all the time. Come on. And by the way, I grew up in Maritzburg, so they know how to drink.
Every World Cup has a pretty wild party, and there's a photographer out there now called Mayhem, and he seems to be leading the charge. It's every race is a party. It would be, I couldn't say one. Every World Cup has a big party.
It'd be unfair. It'd be unfair to call one more mad than the other.
Yeah.
Listen, Greg Minnaar, my man, you are something else, dude. It's been now. Because you're quite dynastic, right? It's not one of those things where it was like 10 minutes. Okay, Oak did all right. It's almost 20 years now where you've been bona fide and great. And as a South African, very proud of you, brother. Whatever support you need, we got your back here at Cliff Central. And dude, keep flying the flag high. Because as you know, this country has a long way to go. But when we have guys like you, it makes it seem possible to be world class and be born in South Africa, in Maritzburg of all places.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Amelia. Thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate it. And, especially the questions, you've really done the research, and it was very interesting. Thank you.
No, you're a legend, and you've always got a home here, my brother. Whatever they say, go kick those Frenchies' asses, bro. I can't wait to see you be at the top of the mountain. Honestly, I hope you're like 43 and you win the World Cup, and then you go and win the World Champs again. You're the guy, bro, and I'm so proud of you. Thank you so much for being gracious with your time. It's just unbelievable to be able to speak to you.
Cool. Thank you. Thanks again. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, let's go. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, the greatest to ever do it. Out of Maritzburg. Hey, how about that? Guy drops out of school. Hey, mom, why don't you mortgage your house? Go and mortgage your house again. All right, son, no problem. Hey, when you do that, you put pressure on yourself. This is why he's the greatest. Let's put myself under all that pressure. No worries. Put on my shoulders. I'll go win the World Cup 3 times. World Champs 3 times. I'm the guy. Out of Maritzburg, made in the world. On the French and Swiss Alps. What a guy. Greg Minnaar. Let's go. Let's go. I don't care who you are as a South African. It's possible. When you see guys like that, and how cool is that guy? There's no way you're going to know that he's one of the greatest human beings in the history of mankind to do what he does. But it's possible. Put in the hours. It's been 20 years of grind. He's at the top of the game. He's sitting with the UCI panel. Folks, sometimes you got to appreciate greatness. You just have to sit back and go, this is what it takes. And when you're great, they reward you. You sit at the big table. As he's saying, he now gets to recommend the direction and shape the sport for the future. I'm so proud of that guy. He's so cool. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the great Greg Minnaar. Tomorrow, by the way, AFC Wimbledon, right? Woude Muller, great story. AFC Wimbledon, you remember the crazy gang with Vinnie Jones? He has been looking after and been in the senior management of that club for 19 years now. AFC Wimbledon, great club. Lots happening there. They're on their way back. If you want to find the story of the crazy gang and much, much more that's happened, listen out tomorrow. We got Woude Muller, managing director, of course, at AFC Wimbledon. For today, ladies and gentlemen, it has been a different ballgame.